Hello, and welcome to another episode of Arthritis at Home, Arthritis Consumer Experts weekly program, providing you insights and perspectives from healthcare professionals, researchers, and patients. And on today's episode, we're going to be having a conversation with Chris Pudlak. He's a mechanical engineer and a father of three, and a person living with ankylosing spondylitis, which he was diagnosed with in 2016. Chris, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Kelly?
Good. I also, I didn't mention, but I think one of the ways that we met was through your work on the Arthritis Patient Advisory Board at Arthritis Research Canada. And I forgot to mention that you are a member of that board, fairly recent. How's that experience been going?
It's been very good. I've been with the group just over a year now, and it was nice to meet with so many other patients of arthritis and to get different experiences and different input and different support. It's not really a support group, but it feels that way. You make some good connections in that group.
Absolutely. I think what we want to talk to you today about is that in that intro, you're wearing many hats on this interview today. We want to start with your personal one as a patient. Um, AS, ankylosing spondylitis, affects men and women almost equally. So it's kind of unique that way in terms of a autoimmune form of arthritis. It's also one that is very difficult to diagnose. What was that experience like for you?
Well, for me, the onset of my arthritis came when I was 36 years old, and I didn't have too many symptoms before that. When I was 35, I had my third child, and she was just a baby, and I was carrying her around, and I remember that year I complained a lot about my back, and I always told myself, well, it's just I'm in a hunched position, I'm carrying an infant, and it's my posture, and I had lots of excuses. And I remember that year my back was a problem, but it didn't really hit me until I got sick after traveling internationally, and then it just hit me really hard. I had big flare-ups in my foot, my knee, my back. I had gastrointestinal symptoms. My wrists were all flared up to the point where I could barely turn the key in my ignition in the car. So it was kind of a crisis at that point. Like I was dealing with my GP, and it didn't take long for her to refer me to a rheumatologist, fortunately, because it was so severe at first.
So the diagnosis in 2016, a new sort of career path or journey for you.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess what we're interested is if we sort of fast forward, um, what you've told us is that your AS has been fairly well managed and under control, but all of a sudden, February, March of this year happens, and you, like a lot of patients, all of a sudden are faced with a lot of questions, and that is, what does this pandemic and this coronavirus mean to me, somebody living with an inflammatory arthritis? Um, can you tell us what, I guess, those first few months were like for you?
It was definitely stressful at first, probably for the same reasons as most people, because there was so many unknowns. Being a new virus, we didn't know what we were dealing with, and um, in the springtime, I was fortunate that I was working the whole time, but at the same time, I'm the main first aid attendant at work, and here I am checking temperatures and helping make decisions on whether we should stay open or not, or if someone's coughing, do they need to get sent home or not, and so it was very stressful that way because I don't know what we don't know what we're exposed to, right? And what the complications are. So that was a stressful time. It's settled down since then because we're starting to know a little bit more about it, but tough at first.
Yeah, I think a lot of questions. People certainly were um, sending us a lot of inquiries and expressing concerns about their medical management, particularly if they were on medications. Should they be continuing to stay on those medications? And of course, the answer was yes, but a lot of people were very unsure about that. And one of the other things that certainly we've talked to patients about and we've featured here on Arthritis at Home is the whole concept around virtual care and how that experience with your healthcare provider, rheumatologist, changed almost overnight. And that is, you were unable to see them in person and you were having conversations, maybe like this one on Zoom or maybe on the telephone, but you weren't going in clinic. Uh, can you walk us through what that was like for you?
The first appointment that it really hit me was a blood test appointment, because I'm still going for regular blood tests, and I showed up at our local Life Labs, and I can't remember the date exactly, but the timing was just before anyone was thinking about wearing masks or social distancing. There was the coronavirus was something happening in China at that time. It was off in the distance, right? It wasn't here. And I showed up at Life Labs there for a blood test, and all the nurses, they were in the face shields plus face mask plus full body cover and with gloves, and I was like, what's going on? So it was a bit of a shock there, and they were a little bit ahead of the curve, right? And they said, look out, this is coming. We need to prepare for this. So that was a shock. And then my next appointment was with my rheumatologist, and that was in the summer, by phone. So by then we were already starting to understand COVID a little more. But it was an interesting appointment with my rheumatologist, because face to face is always nice, right? To be able to describe things and show things. If I have swelling or problems with my joints, I can show it very easily. I ended up sending some pictures of my foot at the time, so she was able to give me some feedback based on the pictures that I emailed. So that was good that it worked out. But fortunately for me, I didn't have to get any cortisone shots at the time or anything like that. That actually required me to be there in person. So it didn't affect me too much, but I can see how it could definitely complicate things.
Now, we've talked a little bit about your personal experience, your experience at work. What we really wanted to focus in on the rest of today's program is family life. And I started in the intro by introducing you that you're father of three. So I think we want to focus now sort of on the stars of the show, and that is you and your family, your wife and your three kids. Maybe just start off by telling us, how old are the three children?
So my kids are 12, 10, and 6. The older two are boys.
Yeah.
And my daughter at 6. Yeah.
So I think it's been a challenging time for families. It doesn't really matter how old the kids are. In my case, my son's 21, and I've certainly watched him have to adapt and learn all sorts of new patterns and routines and behaviors. He's at university and doing online courses currently. I can only imagine what it's like for elementary school age children and parents who are dealing with kids of that age, and a parent in your particular case who's living with AS. So maybe to start off, and we're going to move to a couple of these big holiday moments that are coming up and how you're adjusting to that. But first of all, I guess what has that experience been like to have three children of a very formative age, an age that's is marked, I think, by curiosity, and certainly one where they're learning and they're observing very, very carefully, not just what's going on around them, but what their parents are modeling and what their parents are doing. So I guess, first of all, what was it like to address three different children's perspective on the things that were occurring around us around COVID, and maybe addressing some of their concerns and fears?
Mhm. Well, at first, I think they finished school right around March break. So for them, it was an extended vacation at first. Like, great, we don't have to go to school for even longer, and that kind of extended into the summer break. And so at first, it was um, exciting for them in that way that they had a break from everything. Um, I think it didn't really hit them until the summer, where they all of a sudden now they're restricted because now they can't go to their friend's house, they can't play outside with other friends, and they can't. All the playgrounds are closed, and swimming pools are closed. So that really um, made it real for them, and they realized, this is not a good thing. It's not just a vacation. Um, so the summer was, we ended up canceling our vacation for the summer as well. So, and then of course, summer camps were non-existent. And so it was very different summer for us, for sure. And I think over the summer, it kind of sunk in because of the extended time where we're just kind of stuck at home and not going anywhere or doing anything like we usually would. Um, I think when we started going back to school, or starting to think about going back to school in September, is when um, my older son started to express some concerns about his understanding that yeah, there's a pandemic going on, and should my little sister be out there with the neighborhood kids, and should we be going back to school? And so they started expressing a little more concern with that, especially my older one. But I think it's they're used to it a little bit more, just because of the time, being exposed to the new norm, right? But still, yeah, it's a different experience for them.
So, what did you find was successful in terms of establishing kind of routines or patterns in their life? And I'm thinking particularly in that summer period, carrying over into the new school year, around healthy routines. So certainly with my 21-year-old, I can't really tell him, I need you to really control your screen time, because he's going to go, you don't need to tell me about screen time. But certainly kids of your age, who are younger, just the importance of, sleep and, a regular bedtime, in this sort of atmosphere or environment. They're looking all around going, all the rules that seem to have changed. What applies to me, and what did you try to enforce?
Well, something that I seem to be saying to them every day, before and after COVID, was, after they go to the washroom, to flush a toilet, wash their hands. And so that's something I had to double down on and reinforce even more.
Yeah.
Just washing their hands, not touching their face, and yeah, and keeping distance, I guess, with their friends, because especially my daughter, she has a couple friends that are um, just across the alley that she wanted to play with, right? So we set up rules and for distance. And I thought at first it was very cute, because they went out to the alley, decided, okay, we're going to draw with chalk. So they drew big circles on the ground, 6-foot circles, right? And said, okay, you draw in there in that circle, I'll draw in this circle. So initially for my daughter it was kind of a game, right? But yeah, enforcing that distance rule over the summer, I think, helped lead into the school season.
Was it, I'm thinking about your experience as a parent living with AS. Was it an opportunity to have renewed conversations about what it is you're living with and helping them understand that? Because I guess what I'm thinking is that for you, there are health concerns about people who are, whether it's you or anybody else in your position, if people in your household are starting to go back to school or going back to work, there is a potential risk for you. I'm wondering how you dealt with that with a young family.
Well, I think the topic came up first with grandparents, because there was a lot of emphasis about COVID and the elderly, our seniors, and I had to explain to the kids that, we can't see grandma and grandpa for a while now because we don't want to get them sick, just in case we're sick and we don't realize, and we're gonna give them the illness as well. So it kind of started with the grandparents, and then also with mom and dad, right? If mom and dad get sick, we can't go to work, and there's going to be it's going to be a difficult time taking care of each other because we don't know if we can get help, right? We don't have other family that can step in like in a normal situation. I didn't emphasize too much about the arthritis with them because I didn't know if it was a huge concern or not. So I tried not to delve into it too much, and to worry them too much about that. And even now I understand it's if you're in an immunocompromised situation, then it's a bigger concern. But I think factors like obesity and diabetes might be a larger concern than arthritis. So I think they're still trying to understand that, and I am trying not to go into too much detail with the kids until I know myself. So unless they're asking questions,
yeah, I think that's good advice for a lot of parents that are watching this show today. I guess the final question, and as a parent from one parent to another, I know one of the things that I learned is you don't mess with Halloween and you don't mess with Santa. This stupid COVID thing's messing up with both of those. How are you dealing with that?
Well, there's no way we're going to go without Halloween or Christmas. So got to make it work some way for the kids. And we do have some extra candy stashed away in case we can't go out trick-or-treating and gathering. It looks, the way the trends are going recently, it looks like that'll be the case, that we're probably going to dress up. We've done our pumpkins and everything already, so we're enjoying that. We'll do some more pumpkin pie. We went apple picking, managed to go apple picking, and the crowds weren't too bad. So we're enjoying some of those fall season activities.
Nice.
But yeah, we'll get our costumes out, and at the very least, have a nice party at home, have a nice movie night, and watch some spooky movies and enjoy it that way.
That sounds like a good plan. And again, I wish you the best of luck with that. And I wish you the best of luck with Christmas as well, because, as an adult and as a parent, it's one of the great joys is all of a sudden experiencing Christmas again with your children. And people are going to just have to be extremely creative. And it sounds like you are, and resourceful to make it work this year. And then hopefully next year we do get back to normal. I want to just thank you again for taking the time to speak to us today. A really refreshing perspective, and one that I think a lot of our audience members are going to enjoy. So the best of luck for yourself and for your family. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thanks, Kelly.
Okay. That wraps up another episode of Arthritis at Home. We hope you can join us again next week. Thank you.